Okay, we'll stop the share. And let me tell you technically what I've done. The reason why the tech version works so much quicker than the LaTeX version was that I did the LaTeX version the traditional way, which is to install TeX-Live. You see, the container in which the workflow is run is supposed to be borrowed, and it starts empty and then it's thrown away when it's finished. So because it starts empty, you have to put all your furniture and your rugs and everything else in, and all the LaTeX stuff you think you might possibly ever need, so that the document runs. And that's why it took 2 minutes to do an installation of TeX-Live. I thought that's quite good for an installation of TeX-Live. We didn't have to do that for the plain TeX version because I put into my repository exactly the files I needed and no others. So I ran that thing in my own computer to find out what files were needed. And then I made a point of just copying those files into the repository. And even though LaTeX is bigger than plain TeX in terms of its resources, TeX-Live is even bigger than LaTeX. So even if it takes 3 seconds or 4 seconds to get all the resources you need for your document, that's a big plus. And it also makes it a lot easier to archive your documents, because you can say, well, what does this document depend on? And you can say exactly what it depends on. And those are the only things you need to archive. You don't have to archive the whole of TeX-Live and all your macros and everything else. Just archive the things that you're depending on. And another thing is that this is easy for beginners to use, in the sense that they don't have to buy into very much, and they can try it out and get results. And we can put other things into the workflow. So one of the things I'm quite keen to do is to take all the available accessible math solutions and package them up in this sort of way for small, simple documents. So somebody who just wants to explore the system can do so, and it shouldn't take more than 20 seconds to run. And then they get their accessible outputs, and if they choose the right workflow, those accessible outputs can actually be published on their website. So it even deals with the publishing side of things as well. And the final thing is, because I've forked from the social tech side, it sort of sets up a community of people that are using this stuff, because you can see who's forked the repository. And it also provides communication. You can pull, you can update things and so forth. So there's a lot going on there. Kelly asked the question in chat, which is it faster to use TinyTeX than the full installation of TeX-Live? Yes, very definitely. Very definitely is faster. As long as everything you need is in TinyTeX. If it's not, then you have to download the extra packages in some way. And then I don't know what happens. The author of the Zhu Chen, I think was his name, of the thing I used for LaTeX, said, I'm not going to fix it to make it quicker. This is good enough. I'm not going to get involved in this. But TinyTeX might be a good compromise if that suits you. It's not that one thing is better than another. It's one thing is better for some people in some circumstances and other people in other circumstances. I'm looking at something that's good for the beginner who wants actually to have a highly constrained system. So I'm going to try and stop talking and ask for questions. Okay, we'll go over to Jen.
I have a small question.
Yeah, go on.
What if you need a style file that hasn't been installed?
it will fail. It'll tell you that. It might tell you what style file is missing. I'm looking at the situation perhaps that Julius is in, where there's constrained input language, so the user doesn't get to add style files. So if it's a constrained situation where the user doesn't get to add style files, you can guarantee that you've got all the resources you need if you do your testing properly. So one of the things I was thinking was write a page using MathJax and Markdown, and we'll typeset it for you. And because it's in Markdown, there's no possibility of requesting a style file. So it's good for that sort of thing. It's bad in the situations where overleaf is good. It's good if you want to create some software and make it easily available for people to use without going to the trouble of persuading Overleaf to install it on their servers. So if you've got a small solution for a small problem, you can share it with people in that sort of way. And they can download everything and run it on their own machines if they want to. But the key for success is having a constrained language and sorting out exactly what it is that you need to put in. And I've got that semi-automated at this point. Tech very helpfully has an option that lists all the files it uses. So you just bundle those in and off you go. I'll say one thing which Nelson might be interested in, which is that if you typeset your thesis or some other important document, and you can do it in a private space, it doesn't have to be done publicly on GitHub. If you do this in a private space and it runs successfully in that special environment, then you know you've got an archival copy of your thesis and all its environment. So it's a great archiving tool because you can test that your document has been properly archived. And because it's not pulling in anything from outside, you know you've got everything.
It's not pulling anything except the base system you're running in.
No. I pulled in, I ran it in a virtual machine, and there was no tech on that virtual machine apart from what I supplied. I even supplied the PDF tech executable myself. So everything that was used to produce there is in the repository I showed you. There's nothing from anywhere else. It's all in the repository, including the executables.
Jonathan, this is Kelly. I have a quick question. The example that you just showed is not accessible, correct?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Such as if you ran it through an accessibility check to see if it's a tagged PDF, it would not pass the checks.
Well, oh no, of course not, because I didn't use the accessibility package or something else. What I'm thinking of is, suppose you on your machine can produce an accessible PDF through dint of hard work and careful things and other tools and everything else. And you want other people to be able to produce that same document without going through all the trouble you've gone through. So we package up whatever it is you've got on your machine to create that accessible document. And we make sure it runs on GitHub as a workflow action. And then anybody else that wants to do the same thing with different content can clone your repository, change the content, and it should still run. And if it doesn't run properly, or if there's a problem with the output, they can say, here's this repository and this thing isn't working properly. Can you tell me what's wrong? So you don't have to debug their installation on their machine as well as your own software at the same time. Is that telling you, there's two things there. Have I communicated to you the capabilities of the software, and does it still leave you wanting something?
Yeah, thanks for your explanation there. That was super helpful. And I guess I was just wondering if there's currently code on GitHub where people are using GitHub Actions to make accessible documents.
I doubt it. All the people that use the PDF, the LaTeX thing that I saw, will have cloned. Well, some of them will have. We can look at that. I think that's a thing to look at later. Is what's the track record of using GitHub Actions to create accessible outputs? And the answer for PDF is probably nothing. The answer for HTML is probably there is some stuff. And if you can have GitHub Actions that do accessibility tests, that would be wonderful.
I don't have an example that does the accessibility test, but I do have an example of an R package that creates LaTeX and Markdown templates where users can then add their own code and then compile it using TinyTech or TechLive, and it creates an accessible document. And it's all, you can run it, like I have checks that run it in the GitHub Actions. And so I was just wondering if there's other examples out there.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, and that's fantastic news. The thing I was going for was making it quicker and easier to use. So easier for lay people, so you didn't have to wait 2 minutes to know whether it's worked or not. But if you could send a link or information or email me about those things, I'd be really grateful, because that's something you know much more about than I do, and so I can learn something from you. So
yeah, great. I think that moving forward, it would be really great to see examples like what you have creating accessible documents with all kinds of input and outputs.
It would create a marketplace, wouldn't it? People would say,
example.
Well, yeah, and when I say marketplace, I mean, in Athens, the marketplace was where the democracy met. You know, the marketplace was the big meeting place. It was both where the Athenians conducted their democracy and where they sold their fruit and vegetables. Proud